Welcome back to What Was That After 2 weeks? The blog. We were discussing blogs offline right now, so no blog. The podcast where we discuss tech news, business news, how they interplay, some Indian, some global, and we just have fun with it. Hi, Nitish.
Even it,
What's been fun this week?
most people I'm talking to have actually been quite free this week and are expecting to be quite free the next week as well. These are mostly traders, people in the supply chain. And one of them actually said that it feels like the
Hmm.
lockdown, in that I have work life balance and I don't know what to do with it. His exact
I have an
words.
AC to buy. Would I buy it right now? No. Am I an idiot? No. So I will wait.
There have been a bunch of interesting notifications from the government regarding labeling, regarding MRPs.
Postering.
Uh, I'm sure more clarity will form as we near the 22nd. But as of today, it's a lot of badminton happening. Shuttlecock. People are just pushing the onus down further down the supply chain of who will enforce that the benefits are being passed on, because that seems to be quite important. And a lot of automakers have put out full page, half page advertisements, being extremely grateful and also vowing, vowing to pass on all benefits
They
straight
should
to
be
the
grateful.
end.
They should be grateful for this reform.
I agree. I agree.
Absolutely, there
It's
should be. Like
it's
if
yeah,
I tell you that I am going to slap you 10 times a day, and then 5 years later I tell you I'm going to slap you 5 times a day, you should be very grateful for that.
yeah, because it's the delta that matters, the rate of change that
Yes,
matters. So that's been interesting. Uh, I know we're being a little sarcastic now, but genuinely, traders are free, more free than they've been in the last 5 years. It's interesting. Um, like I said, we are in that Looney Tunes moment of being
Mm.
in the air. I think we'll make it to the other cliff, but let's see. Let's see
It
how it
seems
goes.
like there should be a boom. Genuinely, not being sarcastic. I think there we should see a lot of pickup after the 22nd. A bunch of stuff. Taxes are coming down. Right. Abhi, that explains the vacuum right now. Okay, there can be two reasons for the vacuum. One is people who want to buy are holding off till the 22nd, 23rd.
Hmm.
The second is general downturn. There can only be two reasons, right? I can't think of a third one.
So this reminds me, I haven't fact checked this. So with that caveat, apparently two-wheeler sales in India peaked in 2019, and we still haven't gotten back to those levels. It's been 6 years. Now, does this mean more people are buying cars? Maybe that might be a partial explanation, but I
But
was
are
startled
small car
by.
sales up? Because I can't imagine I was going to buy a scooty, but now I'm going to buy a Thar instead, or I'm going to buy a
Uh,
Merc instead. Are small car sales up?
because two wheelers have gotten so expensive, I think the comparison should be to used cars.
Hmm, fair.
So
Used cars are
the
very expensive right now.
yeah, but that's more of a last 2 years phenomenon, right? Because new cars got really expensive, and so old cars also got dragged up the value chain somehow. But still, the difference between a good motorcycle, I'm not saying a recreational sports bike, but like a good everyday commuter and
Hmm.
a 15-year-old used car, that delta is not that much now. So there is a case to be made that at least some of the sales, because of safety, because of pollution, because of aspiration, because of upward mobility, whatever, at least some subset has moved. But it cannot be everybody, right?
And everybody, yeah.
So what happened to the other people or the other type of people who were buying these bread and butter everyday commuter motorcycles? Where has that demand gone? Terrifying, no? Because it's been 6 years now and we still haven't hit those numbers up after everything, after EVs, after all the promotions. So since you brought it up, I'm hoping that with the new we should call it a stimulus package, right? That's what it is right now. That's how it's being positioned right now. Because if that sort of demand bounce happens, that'll be amazing. It'll be good for everybody,
Yeah,
broadly.
agreed.
It's great. I think that's what the government is counting on, and that's the wager they've made. And honestly, sarcasm aside, I hope it works out that way. Vineet, we're getting older as a population, as a country. You know, we have a limited number of years left when we can still consider ourselves a young country, right? So this is important that this works, because it's, to our knowledge, this is the only big reform on the horizon for the next couple of years at least. Even though there is some bit of recency bias in what I'm saying, it is important because we've seen the COVID drop happen, the bubble grow, pop, stabilize. We've seen it's been a really eventful past decade, you know, from 2016 to now, from Trump being elected to demonetization to GST to COVID to Russia, Ukraine, uh, an actual bona fide drone warfare in our like backyard. Uh, it's been eventful, and I hope we are able to get to the promised land, you know, before it's too late.
Let's hope. Story number one.
You want to go first, or shall I?
Uh,
I think you have a rant locked and ready to go, so I'll go first so that
huh,
you can then
go for it.
expand at.
I have another rant, but
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly.
your rant first.
My story is unsurprisingly the iPhone launches that happened this week, and yes, I know all your favorite tech YouTubers have already covered the new model lineup and why it's so amazing, and you know, the Apple aesthetic, the launch at Apple Park. Um, sure, the reason I think it's important that we talk about it is that there has been a shift in strategy in in the way Apple looks at the iPhone and the way they position it. And I want to speculate on a bunch of reasons on why I think they're doing that. So first of all, have you caught up with all the MKBHD and all those videos, or did you watch the launch? Do you watch the launch every year?
Just whatever I saw on Twitter. It is so the launch reminded me of, how we were discussing that everything is now on two GST slabs if you ignore the third. Right. Two GST slabs only except the third. Here it's like this phone is 5.6 mm thick if you ignore the other 5.5 mm of the camera bump. It is just it is the thinnest phone ever except the camera bump. So yeah.
Okay, for the uninitiated, for the longest time, you had two iPhone lines. You had the base, we'll call it the base because that's the nomenclature that most of tech internet tends to use. You have the base iPhone, and then you have the Pro series. Uh, for the past 5 years, the Pro series has been differentiated by having an additional camera lens, which I'll get to why that's so important, and generally being about 30, 40, 50% pricier than the base version. So the way Apple positioned it was that this is for pro users, you know, the professionals, people who demand more of their phone. So it used to have a better processor, a better screen, better cameras. Now, for most users, I suspect most pro users bought it because of the signaling that it did, you know, because it had a third camera at the back. So those who knew that you have the more expensive iPhone. It was a status symbol, in my opinion, because the third lens is a telephoto lens. Who is using that on a daily basis? Yeah, but then you have a bunch of cameras, right? You're in this.
I use a camera with a phone attached. That is my phone.
I agree, but would you admit that you're in the minority when
Yeah,
it
yeah,
comes to this?
absolutely.
Most iPhone
Absolutely.
Pro users maybe access that once or twice in their entire ownership of the phone, right?
Fair.
That's how
Hmm.
obscure that utility is for most people, because it's mostly you're taking pictures of your pets or your kids or yourself, or at most the scenery when you're on vacation. That's it, right? You do not need a telephoto lens for that. But that third lens was important for a certain type of person who wanted to signal that I got the best, I got the top of the line, uh, best that Apple has to offer, and I am doing well enough to be able to afford it. That was the subtext there, which, no shade, good for you. Interestingly, this year Apple has done three separate things. One, the base iPhone, which was always throttled a little bit in the sense that it would have a slightly less good display than the Pro. It would always have a slightly less good camera than the Pro, because the idea was, if you want the best of the best, pony up for it.
Hmm.
And suddenly the base iPhone has the same display, the almost the same processor, the same cameras, the same front camera, nearly as good battery life. The base iPhone, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, is incredible value. Normally, when people ask for, yeah, and yes, I am one of those annoying people that people do ask for advice on what tech should I buy. I always tell them to go for last year's iPhone because you get
Hmm.
phenomenal value on that. I think this is the first time my answer would be just get the 17. It's that good. They've bumped up the storage. The entry level was 128 GB. It's 256 now.
Which
So,
is good
like
enough.
all the
Hmm.
ways that Apple reminded you that you did not get the top spec are all gone. You get the full iPhone experience with the entry level phone.
Yeah.
The only other place I've seen Apple do this is with the Mac Mini, which is just by itself the best tech deal there is, and it comes from Apple. That little thing can power three screens, can get you through the whole day, does not lag no matter what you throw at it. And I'm talking about the entry level Mac Mini, which costs some 50K.
Yeah. 59, but now you get it on discount, like 52, 53 now.
Huh. It's
Hmm.
phenomenal value.
Phenomenal
Okay.
value.
And
Agree.
for the first time, I'm seeing the iPhone also be
Are you
able
gonna buy
to,
one? Are you gonna buy one? Are you gonna buy one?
uh, most probably. I'm still on a 12 for the record, and I'm again, I have you know that meme, right? The clown putting on the makeup. I'm on the last step of I'm fully in the Apple ecosystem. I'm wearing the watch. I have the Mac, the iPad. I'm properly in the cult. Okay, I will probably upgrade this year. I was planning to switch next year when my phone would hit the 5 year mark, but
Hmm.
I am really tempted to
17 minus 12 is 5, so go for it, right?
no, but I bought it a year later, right? I bought the 12 when the 13 came out, and I got a
Fair.
great deal on it. So that's what I usually do, and that's what I usually advise people to do. That unless this is a part of your public image, uh, you don't need the latest greatest
And
iPhone.
what was
But for
was this under 28% or 18% GST earlier?
18, 18.
Ah, so no saving there.
The phones have been under 18 for the longest time. So yeah, that's surprising what Apple has done with the base iPhone itself. First, second, the Pro for India, the Pro, like I said, was the more affluent, or sometimes even people who had to make a reach to be able to afford the Pro, but would still say, no, this is important to my image of what I'm signaling to my peers, and so I need to get the Pro. For the first time, this time, the Pro models are hideous. They are ugly, and I think it is by design, right? Have you seen the images?
Yeah,
It's
the
grotesque. It's
orange ones.
utilitarian. Yeah, they've given terrible colors because the best selling pros were always the blacks, right?
Hmm.
And you can't get a black pro this year. It's not one of the options. You only have silver, uh, a bright orange, and green. I think. Yeah, those are the three colors, and they're not aesthetic colors, and that's by design. Apple wants only pro users to buy the Pro now, so it looks like uh, a Land Cruiser, to take a car example. It's not pretty.
Ow.
It's got square lines. It looks utilitarian. which
But
is a big
also the base model is now 82,000. Isn't that like a bump up?
It was 79,900 last year,
Hmm.
and that was with the 128 GB.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh God, yeah.
and
Oh God, yeah. I just saw the Pro. Oh God, yes.
yeah, it's hideous, and
It's
that's not
yes.
an accident. Yeah, Apple has not painted themselves into a corner or anything like that. It's deliberate. They
Why?
wanted the phone to look ugly so that only pro users buy it. They want more people to
Hmm.
uh, look at the iPhone as good enough. Okay, because this year, I think for the first time, the iPhone is not targeted at the people who upgrade every year because they're going to do it anyways. Apple has already acquired that customer. They don't care
Hmm.
about that anymore. The entry level iPhone this year is targeted at Android users, and more importantly at people like me who are using old iPhones.
But
So
why
I
would you
pulled up.
still not make the Pro look better? Like, why not?
Yeah, take this nugget which surprised me. I think this is an investment firm. They've estimated that roughly 315 million iPhone users out of a 1.5 billion installed base have not upgraded their iPhones in over 4 years.
Hmm. They'll go for the
Oh,
base. Great. Which is great. But why would they still not make the Pro look nice?
that's what the Air is for. It's brilliant positioning. It's about positioning. The Air is for all those people who were buying the Pro until last year but weren't Pro users, who just want something pretty that tells people that they've spent more than
Everyone else.
the base
Yeah.
the base iPhone.
Fair. The Air will sell a lot. It seems hobbled the more you get into it, but it'll sell a lot.
Yeah, and it's perfect. It's for the people who care about the image more than anything else because it is compromising a lot on many things. It has a single camera, so you
Yeah.
don't even have a wide angle lens. It's just a single camera. It has seriously hobbled battery life. No physical SIM. Vineet, they haven't got approval to sell it in China yet because China mandates physical SIMs. This is eSIM only. There's literally no room in the phone for a SIM slot. The Air has a single lens. It is meant to be instantly recognizable
Hmm.
because that's what that subset of pro buyers want, and that's all they want. They want something really pretty and aspirational that's premium to hold and feels great in the store because afterwards you're going to put a case on it anyways, and that millimeter thickness that you're so crazy about, you're not even going to notice it because you're going to put on a bulky case because it's too fucking thin. This checks so many tech geek boxes, and still tech geeks are the ones who are most pissed off about this. Like, why would you take away the color from the Pro? Why is the Air such a compromised product? You, I've been hearing this for 10 years now, since the first iPhone came out, so 20 years now, that we don't want all our phones to look identical like slabs of glass. We don't want that. Give us
Yeah.
modular phones. That's what the iPhone Air is. You
Huh,
have
the only difference right now between different blocks of whatever is the camera bump, the camera lens setup, right? Otherwise, all phones are flat from the front. They look the
Yeah.
same.
So uh, if you're a fan of modular phones, buy the iPhone Air, buy that battery pack, and snap it on whenever you need it. That's a module, right? That's what it is
Yeah.
technically. If you want a phone with massive battery life, don't care about how bulky it is, get the Pro. And if you just want a regular everyday phone that gets you into the Apple walled garden, then get the base iPhone. And if you don't even want that, buy last year's phone or the phone from the year before that. Although I don't think that's on sale anymore. But last year's phone will be for a while.
Or OLX
So,
Zindabad.
of course. No, used is again a whole other market. I'm not even talking about that.
Hmm.
But like you can buy a new iPhone 16 even today, right? That's great value. You'll get it for like 40, 45,000.
So I have my strategy set in case I decide to get into the walled garden, which is a big if. That I
Mm-hmm.
will, as soon as the Flipkart sale goes live, I will go on OLX and say, "नया 70,000 का मिल रहा है, तुम मुझे 40 का बेचो." That's what everyone does with
Because
me when I'm selling stuff. So payback.
you learned haggling from the masters.
Oh God, I hate OLX, but I love OLX. I use it a lot. I wish there were a better version of OLX. OLX is such a sad product for such a huge ecosystem, such a huge,
Opportunity. Yeah.
such as they still can't make their chat interface non-buggy in 2025.
Yeah.
chats keep disappearing. It will automatically assume, if you put a number there, it'll assume that's your bid and changes the interface. And good lord,
Oh,
it's terrible. Sometimes it'll change my location from Noida to Andaman and Nicobar Islands,
what the
because
fuck?
that's the first,
Alphabetic.
alphabetically first in the list.
Yeah. Yeah. So OLX is working despite its tech, not
Despite
because
its
of
tech.
it.
And I have spent real money on OLX for packages and selling stuff, right? They charge a decent amount. I spent more than 15, 20,000 rupees easy over the last
Mm.
4 5 years. I am a very happy user in that sense, but it is such a shitty product. It is such a shitty, terrible, terrible, terrible product that just, why don't they fix it? I don't get it. So, yeah, this was not supposed to
One,
be my rant. How did I get into rant mode in your story?
I think, unless there's something making you particularly joyous, that's default. You have resting rant face.
I have resting rant brain. You wake me up at 3, I'm giving a rant. I'll have like 5. And I will mean them. I will present those rants like I really, really mean them, and I will mean them. Resting
That's
rant brain.
one last thing. We should make t-shirts with that. Uh, One last thing. I'm not a brand guy, right? So this was like uh, a bit of a reach for me. But in researching this, in how the positioning has evolved, how pricing has evolved since the iPhone was launched, why the iPhone 10 was such a big deal, because it gave Apple the reason to push pricing past the $1,000 mark, which is a
Hmm.
very big, because iPhones are not that expensive. If you think about it, back then they were more expensive than other phones, but they were nowhere near the prices that they are
Now,
now.
like the Samsung Galaxy Fold 7 starts at
Mhm.
1.7 lakhs, I think.
प्रीमियम एंड्रॉयड में तो कुछ अलग ही चल रहा है. I don't understand it. I'm not in the ecosystem. I don't understand it because from the few conversations that I've had with Note users, those devices don't last very long.
Yeah.
So one half of Apple's proposition is you pay through your nose, but then you can rely on these devices for the next. I'm using my MacBook Air uh, with an Intel processor from 10 years, and it's still fine. It still works. Whereas
I tell
the
people like the best value for money laptops are MacBooks.
yeah,
And across
absolutely.
the chain, across all the way to the most expensive one for your use case. Right? Most people are good with still good with a MacBook Air M1, which now on OLX you'll find more like 20, 25K.
Ah, the new one is 45 with offers. 45 for an M1, which is more computing
Oh,
than
it's still on
anybody.
sale. You can still buy
Sorry?
the MacBook Air M1. It's still on sale.
Yeah.
Ah,
Only in India. I don't think
makes
it's
sense.
there
Makes
anywhere.
sense. It is tremendous value.
Reliance Digital has a full page ad in today's paper for the M1 at 45,000 and for the iPhone 16 at 40, or I'm getting them mixed up. 40 and 49,990, I think, with card offers and all that.
Very cool. Very cool.
Phenomenal. I think the takeaway here is that if you do a tech podcast long enough, you turn into an Apple fanboy.
Yeah. I
The brand that I was going to make is that this reminded me, the segmentation that Apple has done with the iPhone reminded me of Porsche and the 911. So people think of the 911 as one car, right? Because it's one marquee. But actually, it's a bunch of cars which kind of look like each other. And again, even Porsche has done the same segmentation. There are at least 8 or 9 911s. They're like model lines under the 911 range, which kind of
oh
look like each other. But
hmm.
if you park them beside each other, you could see that, yeah, this is way different than this. This is a wide body. This is more track oriented, but they all look alike, and they all have some unifying. Uh, I wouldn't say values, but like an integral part of the brand experience in touch and feel, in what is the base experience that you get. And then on top of that, you could buy or spec a 911 that's 3 times the cost of the base, and you're still in the same family. So Porsche has mastered that, and I think Apple has mastered that as well with the iPhone.
No,
They
so
did it well
iPhone,
enough.
I did buy the iPhone 12, right, a few
Uh-huh.
years
Oh,
ago, obviously.
okay.
Uh, I couldn't use it. It was a
Uh,
terrible switch. It was absolutely a terrible switch for me. The keyboard, just because it would limit me into what I can use. You will use this browser and you will like it. You will use this keyboard and you will like it. Truecaller did not work. And those were the days when this was, bless you, this was early
Sorry.
COVID, right? So masks were
Oh, okay.
compulsory and it
Oh,
did not have a fingerprint sensor.
yeah. Face
It
ID
had
didn't work
Face
with
ID and Face
Mac.
ID. So, and
Yeah.
like I'm trying to navigate using Google Maps when I'm driving and it would
Mm-hmm.
just lock the screen. I can't
Yeah.
because they just launched Apple Maps a couple of years. It was still terrible, but they did not give
Still is.
Google Maps that same prioritization. Still is, huh? So it wouldn't leave the screen on. So it would just lock. And I am driving with my mask on. So I can't, I need
Can't
directions.
unlock.
I can't look there and I can't do this. Right. I need to look at it. So either I pull it here when I'm driving. This is not to say good stuff about Google Maps. They also are terrible at their UI, even though their
Right.
use case is drivers. I don't know who in Google Maps thought it's a good idea. Ki you start the navigation, it'll give you a pop up. Extra traffic on your route today. Just show me the damn route and the time it'll take. Right? Show me the route. Then somebody who decided कि अच्छा extra traffic नहीं है, but we still need a pop-up. Normal traffic on your route today. Why do I need a pop-up? One-fourth the screen for that. Normal traffic on your route. Anyhow, see,
Vineet, we
resting
might
rant
have
brain.
to rename cast, man.
Resting rant brain.
Uh, One last thing. There
Hmm.
is speculation that the iPhone Air is Apple's way of preparing for the Fold phone, which is probably going to come next year. So this is like one half of a Fold phone. Which why
Isn't
do they
any
need to?
phone one half of a fold phone?
No, in that they've been able to slim it down that much because
Ah.
that's they need to halve the thickness so that
Hmm.
with a fold, even with it folded, it'll not feel like a brick or like that old Nokia communicator.
Those were
Amazing
good days.
phones, no?
Those were like pre-social media life was nice.
Yeah,
It was a good
it
time.
looked like a pencil box. That
Yeah.
phone.
I remember they had
It
a
was
campaign. Did you see that movie, The Saint? Val Kilmer.
no, I
It
haven't.
was a brand tie-in. Like, and he's basically, and this is, I think, late 90s, early, so I have no idea. Val Kilmer and Elizabeth Shue. And it was a huge brand tie-in. Like, he's using that phone in the movie and he pulls it out and twink and tap, 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 twink, and he's getting coordinates and whatnot is happening. So,
So yeah, that's it. I think we're seeing uh, Apple forego premiumization because they've hit the ceiling of how many iPhone users they can add. I think they're trying to make people update sooner. Come to the latest. I mean, shorten the update cycle, for people because they're holding on to their phones for too long. Case in point.
hmm,
So yeah,
you are the
that's
reason Tim Cook is changing strategies at Apple. You
yeah, I'm
personally.
responsible for his stress from the past year, not Apple Intelligence, which, by the way, was not mentioned at all during the event.
The
Not
earbuds, right? They are saying that's Apple Intelligence, the Babelfish feature.
they've been saying that for 5 years now.
Huh. I don't have hopes. That is also what we brought up last week, that where is that magical third device then coming in, that AI device, right? You have a
Yeah.
phone, you have earbuds, you might have a watch. You're not going to get a new device, a fourth device.
Mhm.
Should I segue into my first story?
Yeah, please.
Karma is not real because the two richest people now in the world are Mr. Elon Musk and Mr. Larry Ellison. If karma were real, the two richest people in the world would not be Elon Musk and Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison, the man who heads Oracle, is now very, very, very rich because Oracle had effectively a 40% bump in price, in share price, in a couple of
Hmm.
days, and then went back down a bit. But yeah, way up. What just happened to Oracle, one might ask? I typically obviously don't talk about share market stuff because I don't know much about share market stuff. But this ties into AI. So therefore, I got involved.
Hmm.
Oracle has sold Well, immediately it soared 30% on cloud growth projections, even as earnings missed estimates. Earnings missed estimates, but it rose 30%. Why? I'll get to the numbers first. These are interesting numbers. Revenue increased 12% from $13 billion a year. Net income was about $3 billion, slightly less than that. Why shares went up was because remaining performance obligations, which is a measure of contracted revenue that has not yet been recognized, has gone up to $455 billion, up 360% from a year earlier, thanks to an agreement with OpenAI for compute. And of these $455 billion, at least $300 billion is going to come from OpenAI. So we are, in my head, very clearly, bubble's going to pop soon. And now we have a front face for the bubble that has taken over from OpenAI, because OpenAI is still, OpenAI, despite all the talk, is still relatively small numbers compared to the stock market. Like they've raised 40 billion ish. And it'll always be an ish because some of that is in compute, some of that is in cash. They're trying to raise more. Of course, they're trying to value themselves at $1 trillion. But yeah, these are smallish numbers, right, compared to the general whatever. But now
And
here's a
they're still private, right?
and they're still private. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now here's a public company that's gone up 35% on the basis of an open AI contract. So therefore, now the stock market's properly gotten involved in the action. And this deal is very, very suspect, incredibly suspect. Look at Oracle's projections. It sees $144 billion in cloud infrastructure revenue in 2030, up from $10 billion in 2025. So in 5 years, then they're going to go 13x. Majority of this is coming from the OpenAI deal. Oracle claims it will make $18 billion in cloud infrastructure revenue in 26, 32 in 27, 73 in 28, 114 in 29, and 144 in 2030. Crazy numbers on the back of this deal, right? Which also means OpenAI being the customer, that OpenAI is going to spend that much on compute. OpenAI is currently a company with an ARR for this year of around 11 to $12 billion. They will probably close this year at about $10 billion. And this projection, on which the entire stock market's gone crazy, says that OpenAI will pay Oracle for compute, which is one of their four core
Exactly. I
revenue
was just going to say that.
end areas, right, which I'll get into. They're going to spend $140 billion on Oracle, on compute.
And surely Oracle is not the only provider for this, right?
Oracle, so we could look at it both ways, to be magnanimous to Oracle, that they could say eventually OpenAI won't be the only customer, right? We're just setting up for them, we'll get more customers. Or we could look at it the other way, that OpenAI could also then, if they're committing to spend $140 billion on Oracle, then they would be spending elsewhere also. You don't want all your eggs in one basket in any case.
Yeah.
Let's look at some comparisons. So OpenAI, I am now quoting Mr. Ed Zitron again. Amazing guy who runs a PR company but does insane amounts of research pretty much overnight. OpenAI intends to spend over 88 billion fucking dollars in compute. I did not add that abuse. It was there in his article. OpenAI intends to spend over 88 billion fucking dollars in compute by FY29 and 110 billion dollars in compute, nearly as much as AWS makes in a year in 2030. So yeah, OpenAI is expecting to spend AWS's revenue equivalent within the next 5 years, and this is a company which is currently at an ARR of 11 to $12 billion in 2025. A company with no path to profitability is overall talking about spending $300 billion over the next 4 years. Also, what they've recently done, OpenAI, 6 days before Oracle's announcement, some internal figures leaked to this tech news site called The Information, which is a $300 a year subscription. I can't pay that, but they do good reporting. That their old forecast versus they had a new forecast of burn rate. their burn rate is going to go up by roughly $80 billion over the next 5 years from what they had earlier projected to
Hmm.
some 115 odd $1 billion over the next 5 years. This is a company which has no way to make a profit, has committed to spending some $300 billion on compute costs alone on one provider who currently does not have the resources to make this happen and is taking on debt to create that compute. And it will also then buy compute from CoreWeave, from Lambda, from the usual suspects that we've discussed before.
Yeah.
This is now just a multi-layer marketing scheme now, which has gotten deep into the stock market. Here is,
In,
yeah,
if I may, in defense of the largely retail crowd that has pushed Oracle's
hmm,
price so high, this is a problem of companies staying private longer. Good companies, bad companies, good business model, bad business model, whatever. I'm not talking about that. But at the moment, there are very few avenues for retail investors to make a pure AI bet at the
yeah,
moment. They might do it in other ways, but they have no way of getting exposure. I hate that term, but that's exactly what it is here, of getting exposure to OpenAI. And this is an indirect way to do that.
yeah,
Now, obviously, the pop that happened is unrealistic, and it it got naturally too far in that direction. But that was what caused it. It was like a pressure release valve. So it Oracle suddenly sucked in all the retail demand that was there for the latent retail demand for people who want to participate in OpenAI in that entire juggernaut, and they are precluded from it at the moment because OpenAI has only ever raised money from large investors, and there's no way for a retail small guy to or girl to get access to those deals. So that's
that's a
what
great point.
caused.
No, that's a great point. Yeah,
It's a structural issue that has unexpected and unintended consequences sometimes. If OpenAI was listed, this pop wouldn't have happened.
yeah, but
And
OpenAI then would have been trading at like some crazy numbers anyhow.
yeah, so all this latent demand would have gone directly to OpenAI. But then the flip side of that is they would also have to answer once a quarter at least of what's going on and where are we now. And you said this a year back. What happened to that? But Bhavish Agarwal and Elon Musk seem to, and Vijay Shekhar Sharma for that matter,
Yeah,
seem to be able to navigate these waters quite easily. So list OpenAI. Come on, you want that $1 trillion valuation? It's not going to happen in private
you
markets.
just gave
Come,
it
come,
away to Larry Ellison. Yeah, yeah.
come to public markets. Come run with the big boys. No?
So I saw this
Sorry.
tweet which just
Uh-huh.
goes how money works. One, OpenAI signs $300 billion GPU deal with Oracle. Two, Larry gains $100 billion, no GPUs shipped. Three, Larry
Yeah.
invests in OpenAI's $1 trillion round. Four, Sam Altman uses $300 billion to pay Oracle. Five, Oracle stock pumps again. Six, Larry makes another $100 billion. Seven, Larry invests in OpenAI and flywheel go brrrr. This is not investing advice.
Oh, that is good writing. This is actually been happening.
Yeah,
It's actually happening. It's so weird. There are such rigid norms in place for banks, for listed companies that you cannot have, like Excel prohibits you from having a circular reference. You cannot move money within your entities
yeah,
and give valuation at any point. You cannot do that. Like banks work on fractional reserve banking, right? They can't use that money to buy their own shares because there's a feedback loop there, and there is a potential for it to have like the last episode of Chernobyl, a runaway reaction.
yeah,
That's exactly what those guardrails are there for. But private company, do what do you want? You can get away with this shit, especially if you can find a way to funnel public money into private, which is exactly what Oracle has managed to do here. What Larry Ellison has managed to do. I don't think he intended it, but it worked out well for him,
I don't
which
think
is
he
to
could
get,
have expected a 30-35% pop.
especially considering Oracle is already up some 40%
And
from
and they missed
that,
earnings
which is besides the point.
because of the earnings are tiny compared to what he's like projecting now.
What century are you living in?
Fair.
Seriously, I, dude, come on.
I should listen to this podcast more.
Yeah, get with the program. Earnings don't matter. Cash flow doesn't matter. It's all vibes.
So yeah, so Oracle has projected that it's effectively projected that its cloud infrastructure revenue will increase by 700% till 2030. So 68% a year from one customer who has no money, which is completely broke,
Yeah. Yep.
and who has very tiny revenues compared to these numbers. So Oracle will in
Yeah.
FY28 by these projections be making more in cloud than all of Google Cloud did in 2024
Yeah.
from one customer.
Plausible, of course.
Plausible, of
These
course,
guys,
of course.
they have weaponized snake oil.
They have.
It's a remarkable achievement. I thought, and I still do think that Trump is the greatest grifter ever, but these guys are
There's a
strong
ton of
runners.
competition. There's strong competition from all across. Like, so these are projections from OpenAI for their revenues that their CFO has released. 2026, $30 billion in revenue, which is close to Salesforce. So that's
Mhm.
what they're saying. I still don't know what Salesforce does, but they make a lot of money. So this is a big, big ask. So
There's
right now, sorry.
what's the channel? Good Work, the YouTube channel,
Yeah.
has a whole video. What the fuck does Salesforce do? And you get to the end of, I think it's a 20-minute video, and they still answer what the fuck
He
does
just did a new one.
Salesforce
He just did a new one. I saw it yesterday with, oh, yeah, with Larry Ellison. He did a new
do?
one
Yeah.
with Larry Ellison.
Oh, nice, nice. I haven't seen that yet.
Like, what does
Such a
Oracle
great channel.
do? We're like, what does Oracle do? So, yeah. So, OpenAI, I think, made about $4 billion in 24. This time they're
Huh?
projecting like current ARR of 11 to 12, and ARR obviously is higher than actual revenues for the year because some period has gone off. So, this
Right.
year, probably around 10 ish. 26, they're saying $30 billion. 27,
Mhm.
they'll make 60. 28, 100, 29, 145, and
Yeah.
2030, $200 billion. And even then, $200 billion in revenue, let's say this is all comes true, right?
Mhm.
And the company still exists then. Even if OpenAI somehow meets all its revenue projections and makes $200 billion in 2030, they're committing to
Mhm.
spend $140 billion out of that with Oracle, with one cloud compute provider.
That's historical. Yeah.
And so I do want to get into the four core areas of expense for an AI company, for OpenAI, essentially, right? Which
Mhm.
are not reducing, by the way. One is salaries, obviously. Whatever percentage it is, we don't have the numbers, right? It's all just estimates, projections, because it's not a public company.
Mhm.
Salary costs are rising. We saw that huge meta explosion, meta AI team building where they were signing off on $100 million checks.
Right.
Salary costs are not going to go down for AI engineers. So those will rise. There
Mhm.
is the cost of compute, which is your actual spend per user, right? If I have a $20 plan, that's my actual, that's what the company is spending on every input, output, whatever. Every transaction seems like the wrong word for this, but yeah, on every transaction, right?
Mhm.
So compute is what is actually being spent there. Everything else is sort of gross margin in a way, right? The fixed
This is
expenses.
probably the largest cost head, right?
So Claude Anthropic says they work on a 45% gross margin. So 55% is the spend on compute.
Right.
OpenAI estimates are roughly 50%. So half the revenue is gone. So therefore, even
Hmm.
with these numbers, $140 billion worth of compute spend
Mhm.
means they need $280 billion of revenue at these metrics, right? Which we don't know will stick if the company sticks. So there's compute,
Mhm.
which is the biggest one, yes, 50%. There are employee costs. There is the capex, right? Either you fully lease or there is capex, data centers, whatever you build on your own.
Yeah.
And fourthly, there are the training costs, which is an area that just completely gets ignored in a lot of these estimates. Training costs are huge and they're rising. So OpenAI is projected to spend $9 billion on training costs this year on potential revenues of $11 billion. So I don't even know. I just said that compute is probably the biggest cost. Probably not.
Isn't the premise that at some point all these curves taper off and
Interesting.
profitability goes oof? Isn't
So
that the
one thing we keep hearing is that inference costs are going down very commonly. Like all these, a lot of tech reporters are saying
yeah,
inference costs are going down only if you look at the price per token that the company charges. So
right?
OpenAI, let's say when it releases GPT-5, it will start charging me less for GPT-4. Let's say, right? So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, cost of tokens is going down, but the cost of inference, and there's enough blog posts I should link to one, the good one. Uh, Cost of inference is not going down because the new models, because they are more detailed in their responses, because they're going deeper down the reasoning chain. I am now, as a user, I'm expecting a full answer rather than one single step. And that
Right.
full answer then is more areas for it to go wrong according to what I want. Right. So therefore, inference costs, the actual cost of answering my question is going up. The cost per token is determined by the company itself. They can call it whatever. Right.
Huh.
But the
No, but
cost.
again,
Hmm,
to play devil's advocate,
hmm.
that's because we're still in the very early stages, right? This is nascent, and
Not. It's not nascent
let's
anymore.
say
The industry
let's
has
say
been
that
around for years now.
I agree, but let's say there's an arbitrary cutoff point at which
Hmm,
we say that we have now matured, our models have matured, and suddenly we
hmm.
can use previous gen chips. We don't need to train our models as much. We can do a lot more with fewer people because the hard work of building this wonderful thing is over, and those one-time costs or that extended period of heavy R&D, let's say, let's put all of these under R&D costs
Hmm.
and say that this is what we had to put in to have a viable and sustainable business model, and that is done. And now on an ongoing basis we only have maintenance costs. That's the premise, right? And
That is
it
the premise. That is the premise
it
they
could play
talk
out,
about. That's the premise they
right?
talk about. But then why is OpenAI committing to buying $140 billion of compute in 2030 from one company? If they feel that inference costs are going to come down,
Hmm.
right? See, right now, if you look at 2025 projections, let's say they make
Right.
$12 billion in revenue. Let's say 50% bears out, so they spend $6 billion on compute, and they spend
Mhm.
the projected $9 billion on training. That's $15 billion of spend on $12 billion of revenue, not counting salaries, right? Not counting anything else. So let's say the compute costs and the training costs also go down to what? Right now they're like 80% and 50% each. Let's say they go down to 20% each.
Right.
Right. That would be the best case for them. So therefore, if they are committing to spend $140 billion
Okay.
with one
So
guy,
here's my counter argument.
hmm,
Uh, when is the last time you went shopping for crackers? It must have been a while, right?
1985, no, 85, no, what am I saying? 95?
Okay, but you remember that they work on discounts, right?
Hmm,
You have absurd MRPs, and then at least here in Bangalore, you go from stall to stall and you ask how much discount are you offering, and somebody says 65, and somebody says 70, and somebody says 75, and you negotiate a little bit more, bargain a little, and then buy,
hmm,
right? I suspect, or I'm speculating without any source whatsoever, that the headline figures that Oracle has given are going to work around the same lines. That's not going to be what OpenAI actually pays them. It's what it's the arbitrarily marked up MRP, let's call it.
hmm.
And OpenAI is going to get a sweetheart deal. They're going to get massive discounts on that. the firecracker example is fun, but this is actually an industry practice. Airbus does this,
I mean, you
Boeing
could
does
just say
this.
Amazon, right? Everything on Amazon is like Frido, right? Frido, the mattress
Yeah.
and pillow guys, right? Every ad I see is 78% off only for today. It's always 78. It's never 77 or 79. It's always 78%.
So,
Mm.
like I was saying, even in the B2B space, Boeing and Airbus do
Mm.
this. When they negotiate those 500 airplane and 1,000 airplane orders, they give you the top line figure, but the actual price, which is never revealed, is at a massive discount to that. And that's industry practice. That's how it's always been. That's what gets reported in the headlines, but never shows up in the revenue statements of either Boeing or Airbus,
So
because
fair.
that's
So
just how
then this $300 billion is not $300 billion, right? Then it's maybe 120, $150 billion.
it's. Yeah, sure. Why not? But it isn't 300.
It doesn't
I'm
300.
quite, yeah,
In
I'm
which
quite certain
case,
of that.
yes, the bubble then.
It can still sustain itself if that's not what
No,
they're.
this pop will then go down, right? The stock pop. Yeah, it can last a
That
few
articulate
years.
things, that's inevitable anyways.
But also, this money is just not there. Nobody has this money. Also, because I will give you three headlines. One is from this research firm called Apollo. AI adoption rates are starting to decline for larger firms. They put graphs in there. I will link to one graph.
Mhm.
They are actually, and you can see the over the last 2 3 months, and I can sort of imagine that because I can see it in my own company. It's settling down. The use cases are becoming clear, and everything else we're going back to whatever.
How
Right?
much of that is just the novelty factor wearing off?
A lot. A lot is novelty factor. A lot of those productivity gains. Let's say I can do 12 things instead of 8. Huge productivity
Uh-huh.
gain, right? What is productivity? Is it making the company more money? In very many use cases, I would suspect not.
Or even
Like,
if it did,
hmm,
that there was a one-time gain, and that has been like that productivity leap. Let's call it. Let's
hmm,
buy into the premise has been achieved, right? You're not going to uh,
hmm.
be able to ride that curve for much longer. Let's say you built an awesome new tool that saves you an hour a day. Um, you've built it now and it's working, and you don't need AI to do maintenance on your little application that you built probably on Python on your machine that's doing all the database collation and everything. It's done. So why do you need to do it again? You don't need to reinvent that every week.
Like comes back to our earlier discussion that it's a great productivity tool. Sure. And you pay a
Hmm.
certain amount for a great productivity tool, and that's it. Where is
Yeah.
that 10x, 20x going to come from? That pop. Yeah, the other point here is the hype cycle has been going 3 hours. 3 hours, 3 years. Right. Anyone
Yeah.
I would really believe anyone who has wanted to try it out is trying it out. Might be waiting for it to get better for new use cases to pop. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think the expectation is also that utilitarian sort of thing. Ki I'm paying $20. Usi may keep giving me more improvements. I won't triple it unless I see clear, quantifiable gains. So,
Right.
so that was the first one. AI adoption rates starting to decline for larger firms.
Hmm.
Second was again that MIT report, which we discussed, that 95% of generative AI pilots at companies are failing. 95%. And their response was that MIT then removed that report. Third is a Financial Times headline. Why is AI struggling to discover new drugs? Remember that early thing that, oh, protein folding. Protein folding. AI is leading to protein folding, and no one knows what protein folding means. But everyone's like,
Right.
oh, AI is going to lead us into the future because it can do protein folding, fold proteins. I don't know. Bench press. I don't know. Where is all this revenue coming from? Is the question. So yeah,
Uh,
VC investments in AI firms have declined year on year from 23. In fact, 23 to 24 was down. 24 to 25 was down, and cost per inference is rising. I will link to that. So they're losing money on every tier of user. The free, obviously, they're losing money. There is a cost for compute. The $20,
yeah.
the $200. So yeah, that's my rant. That's my story. That this Oracle deal, the bubble's gonna It's going to.
Just as an aside,
Hmm,
if broadly the US equity market, which is the largest in the world, not investing advice, I'll just say that up front.
hmm,
All the other companies, X Tech or X, not even NASDAQ, like X, the big seven, who have
hmm.
largely been driving the AI boom as well among the listed companies. If you remove those, the rest of the stock market has either declined or been stagnant for years. There
Yeah,
hasn't been earnings growth. There hasn't been valuation growth. It's a joke that US small caps haven't done anything in 10 years, in terms of growing their valuations. So I have actually heard this argument on a podcast that I can't remember now, from a veteran small cap investor. She
hmm,
said that we are increasingly looking at our return on investment. A large part of that comes from dividends that small caps are paying, because the market just refuses to reprice small caps, even though they have growth, even though they have decent free cash flow, they have good business models. But all the money in the US equity markets is just going towards tech and nothing else. So they're stagnant. As an Indian small cap investor, I'm staggered by how cheap good small US companies are. But it's a value trap, because there is no trigger that will get them to reprice. And that's where as an investor, I make my money. Right? If I
hmm.
find something before everybody else, yes, but then eventually everybody else has to find it. And that repricing has to happen of the price to earnings. And that just hasn't happened in a decade. So the behemoth that is the US equity market is very top heavy. And if the AI bubble not even pops, just slows, just deflates a little bit, it's going to be catastrophic
Yeah.
for uh, the market. It's going to be catastrophic. And again, there was a time when, in such times of uncertainty, when there was fear, money would move to US treasuries. That isn't happening either. US Treasury yields are falling. There, it's just a bad time. There's no precedent for this, at least in the last 100 years, of what happens if everything goes to shit at once, and it's terrifying. I I hope I'm just being Cassandra and I'm totally wrong and everything will be fine. But oh my God, if that bubble pops, if the US equity markets, because it last happened in 2008 and we're still feeling the effects of
Yeah.
that. There are still economies and people and careers and countries who haven't recovered from that. And it's been almost 20 years. So this is terrifying. It is. The COVID crash was more like a micro crash, because it fell and then it recovered immediately. And that happened in all the equity markets around the world, in fairness, because people overreacted. I mean, there was too much fear,
Hmm.
and investors put less faith in the resilience of humanity than was warranted. We pulled through with a lot of costs and a lot of pain, but we pulled through. Whereas markets were all doom and gloom at the time, so that was nice. But we haven't seen a crash in a long time.
But also, when you
Most.
say we pulled through, and this I have no information, so I'm going to ask you,
Mhm.
when you say we pulled through when it comes to the stock market, I would say a
Yeah.
lot of the pulling through was companies were still running, people were still working. We sort of came out without, uh, everything falling apart, right? But the stock
Hmm.
gains were still in tech primarily, right? It's not like Walmart P multiples just suddenly shot up or something. They
Yeah,
recovered,
but
but the tech was what really
specifically,
gained, right?
correct, but specifically, but that's again US centric. But the same thing happened in all the stock markets
Hmm.
around the world. In March of 2020, what the markets were saying was that it's the end of the world, and that just didn't happen. You know, yes, people died, and yes, some companies did fold, and layoffs happened. There was a real cost, but markets overreacted. It wasn't as much as markets predicted. I don't think this will be like that. If there is a crash,
Yeah.
it will be more similar to 2008, 9 than 2020.
I do think markets overreacted. This is all just gut feel and no backing. But markets overreacted towards big tech will now, because everything is remote, so big tech will now run the world. So their valuations just, their multiples just shot up. And then AI
Yeah.
came in.
Between the two, there was actually a correction. Facebook,
Hmm.
which was still Facebook then, no, it had already become Meta. Meta was trading at 80, $90 a share because the whole Metaverse, wasn't that what it was called? When Metaverse,
Wasn't that what it was called? Two
yeah,
years,
when,
2 years
when
later. Imagine.
when it exploded, Meta price had crashed. It was at 6 times free cash flow at $80. That's how
Wow.
pessimistic the market was about Meta.
Now where is it?
600, 700, and they've started paying dividends in
Yeah.
about 2.5 years. That was the move
That's
that
a
that happened.
realistic business then, no? Because they are a very cash rich company. They have a model that just works. They have pretty much not done much on the AI side, not made anything work. Well, most companies have not made anything work on the AI side. Like even Microsoft, still tiny
Hmm.
numbers, right? When they say 10 billion, $13 billion in revenue from AI, they're not segmenting that revenue. B,
Correct.
the working theory is that 10 billion of that is just towards OpenAI. So there is a bit of very high up stock market pricing toward big tech. Again, I'm not a stock market guy. This is obviously, there is no advice here. I don't invest in stocks personally anyhow. But yeah, there is a huge systemic risk here if this doesn't work, and the numbers are just mad. Like going from saying you'll go from 10 to 200 in 5 years, and
Yeah.
you're committing 150 spend to someone in that particular year itself is a, in my head, just the most egregious form of showing that this is a bubble and it's working. People are buying it.
It has all the odors of the .com bubble.
And this is a company which
All,
is losing so much money, it has no free cash flow at all to spend on. It is desperately trying to make any kind of investment happen. And there's this huge non-profit for profit gap that can
Mhm.
just throw all of this into a loop and kill the company. So yeah, sorry I cut you there, but I had some bit of that rant left.
Yeah, no. So until the 2008 crash happened, that was the big crash that I first witnessed. Although I wasn't an investor then, I wasn't even a teenager then, but I did see and read all the material that emerged, first-hand accounts and reporting of the .com bubble and subsequent crash, and all these themes sound very familiar from those days. A lot of great books came out from the time. So it's the same thing, right? There are so many parallels. The internet was the greatest thing ever invented. It actually did change lives, but the markets just priced in like the next 20 years of gains within a year or two, and the market just reached crazy levels. And so correction was inevitable. It would be a miracle if AI doesn't follow the same path. In that, yes, it is actually a great tool and it will actually help. But these numbers are just absurd. That's not going to happen, and it's not going to happen as fast as your as markets are pricing it in. So yeah, that scares me. It genuinely scares me because all our markets are interlinked and they're all dominoes. No one market is going to crash by itself. It will cascade.
And there's just
And
this, a lot of people that I talk to. Again, I run a tech startup, right?
Mhm,
So it's very hard to separate the conversation about the usefulness of AI and the financial engineering bubble that's going on. It just sort of gets conflated that either you are a full on hype cycle AI guy or you're a full
mhm.
on doomer.
Doomer, yeah.
There is no middle ground in most conversation, and LinkedIn just feeds into that. Right. So it's a religion. Do you believe in AI? Have you noticed, by the way, how many times has the term AGI propped up in conversation or in stuff you read in the last 6 months as compared to the previous 2 years? It's almost disappeared for me.
Yeah.
So that's also one bubble
I,
moving on.
I'm reminded of the line from Forrest Gump. Lieutenant Dan asks Gump, "Have you found Jesus yet?" I didn't know I was supposed to be looking for him, sir.
Shrimp
Anyway,
farming. Shrimp farming. I should become a shrimp farmer. No, I'm vegan now. I can't even become a shrimp farmer. Damn it. Anyway,
One last thing before we wrap. You got anything else?
no, no, I'm all ranted out.
One last thing before we wrap. I just finished a phenomenal book called Empire of Pain. It's a book. It's the entire story of the Sackler family. The Sackler family started the Purdue
Hmm.
Pharma, which marketed OxyContin, which was, the way the book tells it, single-handedly responsible for the entire opioid crisis in the U.S. Uh, I knew the broad contours of what happened, but this was a revelation in a bunch of things. In the way that the founder of Purdue, like the patriarch of the family, invented pharma marketing, invented having a sales force go out and convince doctors to write your brand, to prescribe your brand. Invented, founded the company that actually keeps track of sales data at the different levels of the supply chain. IMS was founded by the same guy, the same family, which is
Yeah.
still there, which exists in India as well. But the biggest theme that the book keeps going back to is
Hmm.
regulatory capture, of how they gradually, the rot crept in to the regulators. The FDA, the DA, all those guys were supposed to be watchdogs, right? They were supposed to keep the worst tendencies of these companies in check. That was their entire job description. But those regulatory bodies are staffed by people who are either ex-employees of the pharma companies or are looking for a job once their tenure there is over. So there's that revolving door. And so in many instances, policy was written by the pharma companies and verbatim became like the public stance of the FDA. Was like, there are instances of the head of the FDA making speeches which were written by employees of the pharma companies, and
Yikes.
the head of the FDA made those speeches. Just, my God. So
Yeah.
that was one, that was a revelation. Like, it, it's terrifying because I've always had this perception that the US has had stronger institutions than what we are familiar with, right?
Yeah.
And this is just, no, it's never been like that. It's just that it was in a way more subtle, but in another way a lot more blatant. Just that it happens at such high levels. Like, there's no street level corruption there. There's no cops who are shaking street vendors down for
Hmm.
20, 30 rupees hafta. But corruption is just as pervasive even there, and has been for the last century. The story of Purdue is a 100-year-old story,
Yeah.
right?
US
They've
is
been
like
able
this
to
test bed for, extreme capitalism. Right.
capitalism on steroids.
हाँ, capitalism on steroid. Like सारा try कर लो यहाँ आके, everything, no
Huh.
regulation, whatever. This is your test bed. Regulation might catch
Yeah,
up 10 years later if you're still around trying to build a business. Otherwise, just cash out and leave. US is like a
yeah.
late stage capitalism gone amok.
So they've supersized lobbying, supersized kickback, supersized everything.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was one notable standout in the many themes that the book tackles and does justice to. I thought very well researched, well written, lots of anecdotes, fun read, not fun read, but good read. Uh, Another theme was just how much damage opioid addiction did to communities, and I couldn't help but think that we have parallels there.
Yeah.
Don't think we have a painkiller epidemic to speak of in India, because generally public and doctors have the awareness of that these are habit forming, and they're also controlled substances, right? So there are, s- at least on paper, there are norms in place to prevent that from happening. Uh, I am a part of the pharma industry. I don't think there is widespread abuse in, to my knowledge. Maybe there is, but I don't know. However,
Antibiotics, or is that what you were going to do?
exactly, antibiotics is going to be our crisis, because they are just prescribed left, right, and center. And antibiotic resistance is going to be a big problem. And unlike opioids,
Hmm.
even if you or somebody you know is not directly addicted to them, or has suffered because of them, antibiotics antibiotic abuse causes community level problems
Yeah.
because superbugs are then going to just tear through the community. And even if you were responsible with your antibiotic usage, it doesn't matter. If somebody else wasn't, you are also going to pay the price for that.
But as a
Terrible.
completely unaware person who is not
Uh-huh.
from the industry, knows nothing about pharma, I
Hmm.
sort of feel that that ship has already sailed, given the amount of stuff that is being pumped into dairy, poultry, the animal industry. I
Yeah.
sort of feel that me popping 5 pills in a year, and I don't, right? I don't take antibiotics unless extreme, whatever, doctor recommended, prescribed.
Right.
But I think the amount of stuff that's being pumped into the animals that we're then eating and consuming, I think that ship has sailed. My 5 pills will not make too much of a difference.
I don't know. I hope, again, for the third time in the podcast, I hope we are wrong.
Yeah, I hope so too. So I will end on a book note that I'm going to read now. Same,
Hmm.
same first two words of the book, Empire of AI. It's by
Oh,
this woman called Karen Howe. I just saw an interview she did with Hasan Minhaj.
uh-huh.
It's about OpenAI. It's she has this fantastic parallel that she uses. She compares the AI industry to Dune. The prophecy in the Fremen about Paul Atreides was not organic, right? It was created to have that, the Wizards Haderach come in, right, and play
Right,
that role. It was created, it was fabricated, but eventually everyone just starts believing it. Lisan Al Gaib, oh, that movie is fabulous. What's that guy's name who plays Stilgar? Javier Bardem.
right. Mm.
You've seen the movie, right?
I
He
have
was fabulous in that role. Lisan Al,
not a fan of Dune, but Denis Villeneuve, so I had
hmm,
to.
like Lisan Al Gaib has spoken. Fabulous. I should watch it again. All both of them. No, so yeah, she's saying that they came out with this manufactured prophecy and eventually started believing it, getting high on their own supply. So now it has actually become a religion in that sense,
So
even
what
if it
was
was
the in AI's case? AGI?
AGI.
Okay.
It could destroy the world. We have to control it, but we have to create it before China can. She's like, people actually in these companies, they believe this now, at least.
Okay. Cool. Report back on how the book
I
is.
will. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and let
I'm
us wrap.
yeah, chase
With,
that with another book about chips because I'm just neck deep anyway. So I will
yes.
get back to you on that
I
as
am
well.
still in the middle of chip war.
How are you
Uh,
liking it?
Good. Very interesting. Better than the other one I read, which was Chip Wars,
Uh-huh.
which was just Chip Wars was just a quick Intel versus AMD sort of thing. I thought that's what you were talking about, but no, this is great.
Right.
This goes deep.
Mm. Yeah,
So
it
I will
does.
report back. See you.
I up late at night and read that while having work the next day, like 1, 2 a.m. The last time I did that was Harry Potter. So that's how much I enjoyed reading Chip 4.
I think the last time I did that was every time I've read Lord of the Rings.
Aha, same. Yeah. So
Hmm.
just, one more chapter.
Yes. Now I can't
That's
read Harry
always.
Potter again. Artist cannot separate anymore in that case. So I'm done.
Uh, Unpopular opinion. Harry Potter is terrible writing. How every chapter ends on
Hmm.
this very Enid Blyton-esque, what's going to happen next? And the characters are great. The universe that it has built, the world that it is built is great. But the writing itself is bad.
Yeah. Agreed. And there's a fair bit, like, you read it now, you see there's a fair bit of every single stereotype, every single caricature, and there's so much bullying of those caricatures. Like,
Yeah.
just that cousin, right? The Muggle guy, Vernon?
Mm-hmm.
No, Uncle Vernon,
Dudley.
right? His son, Dudley.
Uncle
Dudley.
Vernon.
Okay, do we need to know for the 18th or 20th time that he's fat? Like, okay, sure.
My bigger complaint with Harry Potter, as much as I love it, is that you have just the most contrived but convenient plot devices which just show up at exactly the right moment and are never spoken of again.
You have a
The
time travel device and it comes in
but
one
you
book and then disappears.
yeah, only that one time.
And it's a common enough time travel device that everyone seems to know about it, but they never talk about it again.
and the hallows which are so core to the wizarding mythology are never mentioned until they become like the most important thing in the world. You must link to Hermione's narration of the story of the what brothers are they? The three brothers. She's reading from that children's fable book, right?
Oh
Of
yeah.
the three story of the three hallows.
Hmm.
The picturization of that is brilliant, brilliant. Just suddenly they use like the best of animation, of music, of this great transition storytelling. It's just completely out of place, but it's beautiful. You should link to that. Just that
I
one
just
scene.
I just love how everyone hates JK Rowling. Like everyone. Everyone in that movie. Like so someone asked, because there's a new series coming out, right? So someone asked Chris Columbus, who directed the first two, uh,
Hmm.
are you gonna be part of the new
I saw that.
He's like, no, it won't work, just because he pretty much said everyone's politics are different now. There's no chance of that happening.
So one last question:
Hmm.
what was a bigger fall from grace, Game of Thrones season 8 or J.K. Rowling?
JK Rowling.
It hurt more, no?
It no Game of Thrones. Personally, Game of Thrones hurt me more. But JK Rowling just seems, you're a billionaire. Do nice things. Be nice. Why are you filling your own heart with hate for a minority that's done nothing to you over contrived shit that has never happened in real life, that just exists in your mind and you're angry about it? Like, yeah, we're not experts on ideological issues and what, but trans people, why are you contriving this shit about, oh, people will, transition over years and years when their kids change their lives around to be able to access a woman's bathroom and then go sexually harass women? What is going on in your head? So you're a billionaire, just do nice things. You have enough money.
I will summarize and end with a quote from the Ocean's 11 series. You shook Sinatra's hand. You should have known better than that. J.K. Rowling
Yeah, so my battery died just
and
at
his
the
ghost.
perfect point. This is what I actually look like.
J.K. Rowling, that's the face of God. She created something that's going to be a core part of the childhood of maybe a billion people. Just recede from public life with grace and go live out the rest of your days in some castle somewhere. You don't even need to
Yeah.
have an opinion. Just go. It doesn't even have to be an opinion I agree with. Just don't have opinions. Just go. Live
Or
your life. You gave us this wonderful gift. Now fuck off.
seriously. And just like, no, be nice. Why is compassion such
I'm
a,
not even saying she needs to
I
do that.
am.
I'm not. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Just
It's
disappear.
fine. Just
Fuck off.
fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's end there.
See you, man. And see you, everyone. See you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.